Okay, what's going on, guys? We have another awesome podcast today with a Mr. Jared Harris, who I've had the pleasure of knowing now for a good few months. And over my period of knowing him, out of all the coaches inside of our sort of inner circle coaching program, his calls are the ones that I like repeat, go back to in the gym. Whenever we get a new call dropped, I'm like rewatching that over and over again because this man has so much value, so much experience, and his answers for just questions are fantastic. So, welcome on the podcast, Jared. How you doing?
Thanks, Ethan. I appreciate being here. Thank you for those kind words as well.
No, of course, man. You know, I got to give you credit where credit's deserved. So, why don't you just give sort of a basic outline for people who don't know you and like what you do, what that looks like?
So basically, what I do right now on a day-to-day is I manage a couple of teams and I am a coach and setter to closer. And my biggest point is helping people, number one, not just find the right opportunity, but also maximize that opportunity and then be able to funnel and help people understand what to do with capital once they do make the commissions. And be able to build a long-lasting future, not just build right now money and then lose it on dumb things. So I want to make sure that just not can you make the money up front, but also where can you invest it and be able to help people long term to actually build a future. Because at the end of the day, it's about financial freedom, remote freedom, and being able to live the best life.
Hmm. Did you have some points where you made some good money, but you blew it on some stupid stuff?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think anybody that's young that comes into money, it flows out pretty quickly until you learn about financial literacy and understanding what to do with money once you do make it. And oftentimes in the space, I see a lot of people that come in, they're 18, 19, 20, and they've never really made real money before. And then with a little bit of help and guidance, we can get them up to, anywhere from 5, 10K, even up to like 15, 20K in a setting position. And being able to see people that are younger that are making that type of money, they don't really understand what to do it. And unfortunately, most people don't have the financial literacy in their family to help them. So it's a
Hmm.
big thing to be able to help and really build people full round to make sure that they can live a sustainable life.
Love it. And we can touch a lot more on that inside this podcast. Why don't you rewind the clocks back to like how old were you when you got started in the space? When did you come into like your first money? Like what were you doing kind of at that time?
Yeah, so I got started in, I would say, like the remote online space back in 2020 when COVID hit. I was senior in college when COVID hit. And basically, when that happened, I was like, you know what? I'm not going the same pathway that I thought I was going to go. And I wanted to dive into the remote space and dive into business. And I ended up getting into a little bit of network marketing, getting into some trading aspects. And then I found sales. And I first got into construction sales in California when additional dwelling units got really popular. And I did about three-quarters of $1 million in like 2 months in sales, which is really only like five sales because it's construction, it's really big. But the thing that I realized is that you don't get paid until like 12 months afterwards. And that was a big problem of understanding that, if I needed money now, I needed to find opportunities that could actually provide that. And I ended up going and networking at a Friendsgiving and met one of my friend's friends who was launching their Airbnb company. And they were doing like a done for you rental arbitrage model. And they had just launched and they were looking for a sales rep. And I happened to be there and I was just like, hey, I'll jump in and I'll start selling for you. And I did $500,000 in 80 days with them and took a business from complete conception when I first sold for them. They had no website, they had no community. The first three people that I sold, they literally sat on a waiting list in my phone. And I just keep up with them for like 3 weeks, letting them know that, hey, we're still making this happen. We're still doing this. And then I just got into it and found a groove and caught fire and, had my first 20K month. I was 22 at the time. And that was the most money that I'd ever seen in that amount of time. And at that point, it was, everything was going in the right direction. And this industry is one where it's not necessarily the most stable industry. I would say once you find an opportunity, it's not like you're going to go spend 5, 10 years of that opportunity. Most opportunities, if they're really good, you might get a year, maybe 2 years out of it. Most opportunities, I would say, are typically anywhere from like 6 to 8 months. And so ended up getting into a different coaching community after that and got into a different staffing on a couple different offers, worked in worked in real estate. That was the biggest thing is like I found a niche and real estate was that niche for me. And then I found myself setting on an offer called B&B Formula. And from that point, that really launched my career because I decided to take initiative and take additional steps to really make my process secure. I took some coaching. I listened to some very pivotal people in my life, one of them being Matthew Moore. And he just really helped and defined me as a setter. And within 6 weeks, I went from setting to setting manager at B&B Formula, and then I ended up doing about 35 million with that company in 1 year. And the rest was pretty much history after that. The experiences that I learned from that, taking that opportunity and just maximizing it, really changed my life. And just not did it increase my network, but it also increased my net worth and just increased my mindset of what was possible. And to be able to see that much money coming in to the company within direct results of what you're doing on a day to day really impacted my life in a tremendous way.
Beautiful. Okay, and keep going because I know where this story goes, and it keeps getting, I feel like, better and better too.
Yeah, yeah. So after that, all those experiences that I learned from hiring to just like networking, learning, understanding sales at a deeper level, and then systems and processes, I decided to take my skill set and launch my own consulting agency. And from that point, I realized that it is extremely difficult to find really good clients. And being able to go from consulting, I helped some companies go from, basically zero to a couple 100K months and realize that there's a big difference from companies doing 100K a month to companies doing, 500,000 a month to companies doing 1 million a month. And the different strategies to use, the different opportunities are pretty drastic between all three of those levels. And so I knew that I needed to find companies that I could impact at a higher level. And I started to incorporate myself into different companies and helped one company that basically they were at 500,000 a month and their whole sales team had left them. And over the course of that year, the first 5 months of that year, they went from 500,000 down to about 80,000 a month. And then I got introduced to them and I took them from 80,000 a month, fixed a lot of the issues inside of their systems, rebuilt their team, actually built a setting team for them through my network, and then got them back up to 500,000 in 90 days and ended up going in and doing that with another company and winning the school games. Took that company from 14K to 140K the next month just by implementing setters that knew what they were doing and implementing the right systems. It really is a game changer for a lot of business owners. And so going in, understanding how to actually be successful up front and not just guessing. And I think that's the biggest thing that differentiates people in the online space is understanding actually what to do and people that are maybe understand the skill set, but they don't have the training, and they just go in and they kind of just like go through the steps to be successful, but they don't actually know how to be successful. And so that's one of the biggest things that I've learned over the last 3 years of consulting and managing teams is how to be successful in any opportunity. And that's one of the things that I like most about being here now at Saturday to Closer is being able to provide that to others and helping them become professionals faster, not just being a setter. And I would say
Mhm.
there's a big difference from being a setter and being a professional.
Mm. Okay, and walk us through as well because you know you're a coach inside of setter to closer. You're a member of the team. You're helping out there. So I guess like was you were managing a few clients on your own business. Is setter to closer like another client that you're sort of managing and you're kind of like, okay, I'm just gonna scale and grow like Matt's company, or how did you kind of get connected and with Matt?
Yeah, so Matt and I have been friends since we ever met. Like we've gotten the opportunity to go on a couple different trips and just really networked. And with when Matt said that he was going to launch this community, we talked about what it looked like. And I wouldn't consider this necessarily like just a client. It's more of ownership over the business. Not saying that I own the business, but taking personal ownership because it's a huge passion project. One of the things in the space is that typically when you're looking for coaching, you're looking for two things. One, just the experience, being able to actively and understand how you can give, the experience that I've had to others. That way they can understand it, learn it, and then be able to grow from it, but also be able to utilize people's network. One of the biggest things about coaching and getting access into coaching communities is actually accessing the network. And when looking at the network inside of Set of the Closer, you have Matt's network, who arguably probably has one of the best networks in the entire industry. The people that he's connected with, he's gotten me a ton of connections. Being able to just understand where you can get opportunities and what are good opportunities. And when Matt presented that to me, it was just the right timing and being able to see where we can make a really big impact in the space.
Love it. Okay, cool. Love it. And so what would you say being so directly tied in like the partnership with this sort of business, what would you say is sort of like the goal, the mission, like where are you trying to sort of grow it into?
Yeah, the goal and the mission, number one, impact people's lives, impact their like financial careers, as well as being able to get 10,000 setters staffed. That's one of our big missions is being able to come in, just not help them, just not be able to coach them, but actually provide opportunities that are sustainable, that actually produce results that they're looking for.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Simple dimple. Yeah. Okay. So, I have a couple follow-up questions with what you were saying earlier. So,
Yeah.
earlier you were saying like 6 to 8 months being and working in a company is common, right?
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of people might hear that and think like, wait, like 6 to 8 months, so I have like no job security here. So, if you could touch on that, that'd be great. And I also want to ask like if you think just sort of overall holistically, like do you think the landscape of work and careers have shifted from when like our parents were born to now, and like how has it shifted?
Yeah, so touching on the second question first, the landscape of, you know, jobs and how it works. I think that traditionally in the 9 to 5, if you're gonna hire someone, you're going to go through a longer onboarding process. There's maybe less skill set needed or more training and school needed to be able to get access to jobs. Where I think now it's more about charisma. It's a lot about like skill set and training, not necessarily proper school training. Like you don't need a degree to get into a lot of jobs now. If you were even like different 9 to 5 jobs, if you go and run into someone and they really like you, the likelihood that they're going to hire you because you're a good culture fit is a lot higher than it was, back for my parents. And so I think now we're a little bit more money motivated in today's world, I would say. There's a lot of money transitioning. We're going through this big transition phase in the world of, different financial institutions and what's kind of going on with it, where I think jobs have shifted a lot more. We have a lot of jobs where, AI is taking over. We have a lot of jobs where you might not even need a degree. There's a lot of jobs where people that thought they could retire off of their income when they did retire, now that income's not enough. And so now they're taking other jobs that used to be for high schoolers. So I think there's a lot of different access to opportunities that's not necessarily there anymore. But there's also more access to opportunities online now that our parents didn't have access to. And so it's almost split of where the job environment, I would say in like the 9 to 5, the corporate world has completely changed, but also it's opened up a lot of opportunity in the online space. And so you kind of have two different options that you go work remote or work in person. And then as far as the second question being like job security, I think when you go remote, you have greater access to jobs. You don't have to go travel to be at a job. You don't have to drive. You don't have to be in that city to get a job. You can be anywhere in the world. And so I think the access to jobs is easier, but the skill set needed for the jobs is more specific. And
Mm.
that's where the training comes in. That's where you need to have your skill set dialed in. That way, then you can actually go and perform at the job that you want to go do. And so, one thing, and we'll probably dive into this more, but I always talk about that you have your sales skill set or whatever skill set you have over here, and then you have the job skill set. And you should have your skill set always locked in. It should be refined. You should never be rusty. This should always be active. Where over here, you should be able to learn very quickly. You should be able to integrate fast, but this is where like the learning curve comes in with onboarding into an opportunity. And so there's a little bit of flexibility between the two. And from managing teams, at B&B Formula, I managed a team upwards of 140 people at one time. And one of the biggest things that I noticed is when people spend, 6 to 8 months at one opportunity, it can get mundane. It can get boring at times if you aren't actively trying to get better. If you're not actively tracking, if you're not doing all the things it takes to actually become a professional, and if you're just staying as a setter, oftentimes, companies will look at you and go, well, you're not progressing anymore. You're not actually growing. You're not actually producing more for the company. And if you're not producing more for the company, oftentimes they see it as less. And so in those in those time periods, you really do need to be able to increase your skill set to be able to produce more, or companies do end up starting to find other people because the company is still growing. And so it's kind of like a catch 22 in that matter of, are you producing more? Even if you're doing less, even if you're not learning, you're just producing the same amount. It's not technically growth for the company.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay. What about like just getting in the role for the first time? Because you could say, sure, it's like easy to get a job without a degree, but like this, you guys are doing, a form of sales. And like, you never needed to do a degree for sales. And like I don't think I'm a fit for sales. So like what kind of person do you have to actually be to make money and like have this actually like work for someone?
I think the optimum word is work. Um, I think that oftentimes people lose the factor of working when you go remote. When you go remote, you get to sit at home, you get an office, you get to go have that freedom. But with that freedom comes the responsibility of actually putting in the time and effort to stay consistent and actually work. And so if you can't manage that well, then it can become difficult to actually make the money that you're wanting to make because you're not putting in the work necessary. And, you know, in especially in the high ticket space, like a 9 to 5 job is 9 to 5. But in the remote space, it's not really 9 to 5 because you're calling people before their jobs and after their jobs because you're calling people typically that have 9 to 5 jobs. And so you have that remote freedom, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have the time freedom. You have to structure your life and structure your time around where you can actually optimize your job itself and where you're going to be able to maximize your time. But now what it does give you, it gives you your afternoon. So there's a lot of understanding and learning about how you can manage your time and energy in the remote space. And I remember when I was setting, I knew my schedule, and even when I was closing, I knew my schedule a little bit, which we'll dive into. But with setting specifically, I knew that, I could take with the specific offer, Wednesdays were slow for me. And so I knew that on Wednesday afternoon, I'd go to the park with my wife. I'd go and enjoy some time because I needed that energy brought back to me. I needed to take that time set aside. And I knew that it wasn't going to be the optimum time for me to perform. And so understanding that scheduling, when are you going to perform your best? And then make sure that you perform your best. But then take the time and enjoy. You do live remote. You do have that freedom. You just have to optimize it properly. And it's really getting rid of the excuses of life and just kind of living it. And one of the biggest parts of the process of doing that was understanding that work-life balance doesn't mean anything. You basically mold the two together. You have life and you have work, and they come together. And sometimes life and work mix matches. Sometimes you have to take a work call at dinner. Sometimes you have to do other things. But it's part of the luxury of being remote and being having that freedom. So it's if you are looking to get into the remote space, understanding that responsibility that you need to have to actually be that professional to make the money that you want to make.
I love that. Yeah, okay. And like you've been in a unique position where you've set for companies before, you have closed for companies before, you've also just been like a setter manager, like a sales team manager. I think most people listening to this, they're kind of debating whether they should do like setting or closing. Closing, obviously, because you can make a lot more money. But when we talk about this in the context of time freedom, my audience knows for me, like freedom is one of my most important values, like between time freedom, location freedom, and the big one, financial freedom.
Yeah.
Um, and so in the context of time freedom between these two offers, I guess how do you see the difference between setter to closers and how they manage their calendars, how they do that, and also in the context of like if someone's getting into this with a job that they're sort of having to part-time do while they get into this industry, like what would be best for them there?
Yeah, that's a great point to bring up, Ethan. So, I'll go through kind of like a day of the life of both, of like a closer and a setter. So, with a closer, typically you're gonna have to, wake up in the morning, make sure that everyone's confirmed, you have like your morning routine, and then most opportunities you're going to have anywhere from 8 to 10 calls on calendar every day. And so you're basically working 8 to 10 hours plus the different admin work. And that's like, adding an hour in the morning, adding an hour in the evening. So you could be potentially working 12 hours a day. And that's not something where, oh, I'm gonna go and I have to run to the doctors or I have to go do something. No, if you got an appointment scheduled, you got to be in the seat. You got to be in behind your desk to actually take those calls. Now, you have the opportunity to make more money. Typically, you make more percent than a setter does, but you're really controlled by your calendar. And if there's a call, you have to be there. And if there's a no-show, you still have to be there for it because what if they do show up? You don't know they're not going to show up until they don't show up. And so oftentimes your time can be wasted if the no-show rate is high. And so then you're trying to find other ways. So then most of the top closers, when they have a no-show, they actually go and set their own calls as well because they understand that they need to fill that time with something. Now, if you look at the setting opportunity, your time is really based on when the pickups are going to be. And so the pickups are going to be in the morning when people are getting ready to go to work, when people are before they really start their day. And then it's going to be in the evening after work and after their day's already done. And so it leaves you a little bit more time freedom. And typically on a team, you're going to have probably more closers than you do setters, depending on the structure of the team. Where if you're one setter, you can set to multiple closers. And most closing calls take an hour. Well, I could probably go in and set 3 to 4 sets in that hour. And that's on the good end. If you're just like an average setter, you could probably go set two. And so if you're looking at the ability to make money, well, you can actually start to make more money as a setter than as a closer if you can maximize your time and efficiently produce in the offer that you're in, because you can actually you can talk to more people in that hour. Whereas like a closer is only going to talk to one person. You could probably go talk to 3 or 4 different people and set them. So the opportunity is there for you. But then also if let's say you're a mother, or let's say you just have kids and you need to go take care of your kids. As a closer, you can't do that because you have calls. As a setter, no one's probably going to think twice about it because okay, you hit your KPI, you did some sets, you had an emergency. Okay, no worries. Like go do what you're going to go do because you have that freedom. Also at the same time, if you're going to like take a vacation, as a setter, you could take a vacation. It probably doesn't hurt the team as much. But if you're a closer, you have to give them a month in advance. Hey, I'm going to take this time off. And then they're probably going to try and squeeze that vacation down. They're going to try and squeeze as much out of you as you possibly can. Whereas setting, you have that freedom because there's more people that can put up calls. It's a little bit easier of a position to be able to get someone into to actually replace that work for that week or be able to help scale at that point in time. So from a business standpoint, the setter has a little bit more freedom than the closers do just because of responsibility. And as a setter, your responsibility is less. And if you're part-time, which I recommend, like if you have a job right now and you're going, I want to get remote, but I'm not comfortable taking that risk yet, I would come in, number one, as a setter because you have that freedom. No one's going to say, hey, you have to have 5 slots open. You have to be able to do this. Hey, I'm going to come in and I'm going to dial in the evenings. Great. Awesome. You could come in and dial after work 2, 3 hours, probably get a set or two up. And that's going to start to build a part-time income. And once you see that money coming in, you can scale back on work and pick up on, your remote job and be able to start making that money. And then you can learn to transition into a closer after that once you're already making the full-time income from a setter and fully transition out of that 9 to 5 job. And so what I would recommend is if you're in that position, you're starting to think about it, understand what it takes to be a setter because you still get that freedom. You don't have the pressure, and you can also make some really good money with the freedom that you're looking for.
Mm, I love that. I love that. I listened to that on one of your coaching calls, and I was, just that perspective was the first time I actually heard it phrased that way. But my girlfriend Vera, who's currently an appointment setter on one of Matt's offers that he's managing, she was a closer for like a month as a somewhat beginner. She took like 10 calls, and like I have never seen her more stressed than like any other time in her life. Like she knew she had a call at like 3 or 4 p.m. that day. So the whole day like before that she was like on edge because she knew like at that time she had to like be at her desk performing and focused, which it's kind of like a high performing job. Like you've got to be a high performer because you got to be like dialed in and focused. Like, hey, it's game day. I'm ready to perform. I'm ready to like be the the bigger person on this call where like they can look to me for advice. And so then when she switched to setting, just like her whole vibe just completely changed. And now we both work home at the same time. And yeah, I'll just see her, on the couch sometimes on her phone or whatever, eating some Cheetos. I'm like, hey, aren't you like supposed to be like working right now? And she's like, all right, I got 5 sets on the board or
Yep.
something. And then she'll do whatever she wants for a couple hours and then she'll go back and make some more sets. But like it's just relaxed. So it totally made more sense to me. And so a follow-up question I have with that too, because I actually had someone ask me this yesterday, which is what do you do for those people who are, let's say they get a part-time job and they got their real job or something, and they quit their real job and now they're stuck with this part-time job. So like is it better to have like two part-time roles or like one full-time role? Or like if you do have two part-time roles, can you manage that? Is that possible?
So I'll give you a life story of mine. So I used to work like three, four different online jobs. Like I was helping manage and I had, a closing opportunity and I was closing on one offer and closing on another offer and then I was setting on another offer. And I was just maximizing my time. I was working like 18-hour days because I was just trying to go make money. And one of the things that one of the business owners that I first worked with at the initial offer that I did so well in, I had dinner with him and he had mentioned, he's like, Jared, you're probably one of the best sales reps that I've ever met in my life, but you're lacking focus. And if you had focus, you could actually perform at a much higher level. And everybody's goal in this space is to make that elusive $10,000 a month. And I was doing that. I was working 4 offers, making $10,000 a month. But when you look at it, I was only making like 25 to 3 grand off of each offer. And I evaluated those offers and I looked at it and I started to thin out the offers that I was working on. And at the time when I actually thinned them out and took focus on one offer, that's actually when I started to focus at B&B Formula. And then I had the biggest year of my entire life because I focused on one thing and I put all my energy and effort into that one thing that then just ended up being just an absolute life-changing opportunity for me. So I would say focus is the biggest thing because if you can focus and ultimately obsess over one opportunity, then that's where you start to become great and you become that, that A player, that Michael Jordan-esque player that you're looking to be, that everybody wants to be, but not everybody can actually be it because oftentimes their focus is split in too many different directions.
And I totally get that perspective. I totally get that perspective. But like, how do you respond to people who are like, who have the mindset that like the growth of this company, like the opportunity just isn't there. Like it's out of my hands whether or not the business owner is going to grow this business into something that can be full time for me. I know you did that. Like you grew a company uh with your skill set, but what if they're like, I don't have that skill set, or what do I even have to do to help grow this company? Like it's just kind of out of my hands.
Well, number one is get the skill set. That's the first biggest thing is if you feel like you don't have the skill set, get the skill set. Come learn from guys like us in the setter to closer community. Number two is that in business, there's one thing that drives the business and it's sales. Their sales runs every single business. It doesn't matter. If the business owner is like, hey guys, I don't want to scale, then fire your team. because the team is scaling. Oftentimes, the business owner doesn't have control over the scalability. It has to do with the sales team itself. And if the biggest thing to look at, like opportunity wise, and I always make the differentiation here is it's not a job, it's an opportunity. And it's an opportunity for you to be successful. And you just have to look at every quote unquote job. And when you change it to an opportunity, you have to look at it and is the opportunity actually there? So a couple of things. Is the offer sound? Like is the job opportunity actually help people? Is it doing what it's saying that it's doing? And if it's a yes, then you have a great product. It's helping people. Awesome. Then the next thing you have to look at, do you have leads? And realize I didn't say warm leads, I didn't say marketing leads, I just said leads. If you have leads, you can be successful. I've grown companies where there are completely cold leads. They haven't talked to them in years. And we bring them back around and make them into new deals because oftentimes they just fell through the cracks. Like someone didn't talk to them, someone talked to them improperly, like they didn't have the skill set to actually perform. And that was the biggest thing that I did at B&B Formula was I took 2, 3-year-old leads, brought them back into the system, and we generated multiple millions of dollars off of it. And so if you're looking at your opportunity and you're like, hey, I have leads, it's a good product, then the only missing piece is you. And it doesn't matter if we're scaling, we're not scaling. All you have to do is go, okay, I'm gonna go sit on the phone, I'm gonna dial. I'm gonna go shoot some messages out. I'm gonna go use the skill sets that I've been training that I learn. And if you don't have the skill sets, go get them. So then you can actually maximize that opportunity for what you want to achieve. And that's what
Great.
I would say to
Okay.
those people.
And this is a great leeway, sort of into my next question, which is um, sales is in general like the bottleneck between like growing companies. But like, what would you say in your experience is the biggest difference from companies doing 100K a month versus 500K a month to $1 million a month?
Hmm. It's a good question, Ethan. I would say number one, every business has their own problems. And the more money you're making, typically the more problems you have. So it's not like, oh, I'm just going to make more money and less problems. No, that's not really how it happens. The biggest differences has to come into like systems. What do you have that's available? Typically, companies that make more money put more time and money into systems, which then help the scalability of the company. Um, the biggest thing is A players. If you don't have A players to help grow the company, I think that's the biggest thing, instead of the closer, is that, Matt's brought together, we call them the Avengers of sales. And so he's just brought all the top talent in the industry into one opportunity to be able to grow it. And it's the fastest growing opportunity that I've ever been a part of, where it's been organic, the most valuable, the top level people. Whereas other companies where you have to train, optimize, build an onboarding process, there's a lot of steps that you have to take to be able to bring maybe a B or C player in to perform. Where I think that's kind of like the biggest thing is your process duplicatable for people that don't know what to do? And that's the biggest difference between like companies that aren't doing that much a month to companies that are doing significant numbers every single month has to do with like the onboarding process, how they bring reps in, and is the process duplicatable? Because once it's duplicatable, then you can track everything by numbers and be able to run that process. And so it's interesting in this space, a lot of people try and go find like the $500,000 a month companies. But the people that are getting the $500,000 a month companies, they're getting higher tier reps or $1 million a month companies. They're getting reps that have the experience because they already have the revenue, they already have the capital.
Hmm.
And if for me, if I was to look at an opportunity, I would look at where can I make the most amount of money right now and also scale it. Well, it's going to be with a company that is already making money because it's proven. They've already gone through the initial steps. They understand the marketing process. They understand the systems. And then it's more plug and play for me.
Hmm.
If I'm brand new, I can't be stingy. I can't go, "Oh, I just want to go implement onto $1 million a month company." And do
Hmm.
what? Like, what do you know how to do? How are you going to help the company out? And so understanding where you're currently at to then be able to incorporate yourself into a company.
Hmm.
I think one of the greatest things that I did was get into a brand new startup and learn about how to create sales for something that they didn't have. It created me to be the best salesperson that I possibly could be. And then that really skyrocketed me into a lot of different ventures where they needed someone that was skilled, that had all the maybe focus and pedigree that I had up to that point, where I had to take that first opportunity that wasn't built out, that there wasn't anything there. It was very unsure. But I led that company by sales. There wasn't anything there. It was just purely sales based. And so I think depending on who you are and what type of mentality you have, that can really determine what type of opportunity you're looking to get into, because you really control your own future. And when you can understand that, then you don't allow the excuses or reasoning of other or even the business owner to tell you that, hey, like we don't want to do this. It's like, well, if you give me 100 leads, I'm going to book this many calls and we're going to get this many closed deals, which then is already above what you want to do. So like, do you want me to make these 100 calls? Well, of course, no business owner is going to say no. So then automatically you're going to be able to get the results that you're looking for if you're
Hmm.
in the right sales position.
Okay. And so for like the average guy or girl that is like listening to this and they went through a training like setter to closer or some of the other ones like just a training on high ticket sales and appointment setting,
Mhm.
what's like a realistic and appropriate company size to start at with again no experience? They're coming up from Home Depot. If $1 million a month is too like high and they're actually looking for seasoned experienced reps, what's sort of that like company range in revenue that sort of these people can find like an offer that's good and they can learn from, but also it's like realistic.
If you could find an offer that's doing like 250K a month, they've broken past the like validity stage of where it's like we can consistently do 100K a month. It typically gives them enough to have marketing, to have different experiences for reps to be able to onboard into. And then it also gives the rep the room to grow and to be able to scale. Most reps, when they get into the space, they want and they ask for like, what does my future look like? If I'm going to work here, what does, getting into a closing position or getting into leadership look like? On a bigger company that's doing multiple millions of dollars a month, probably not much. There's probably not a lot of upward momentum there for you. But if you're actually looking for that momentum and you're looking for that growth long term, getting into a company that's doing like, $250,000 a month or anywhere from a quarter to $500,000, you're probably going to have that growth opportunity. You come in, they're going to be able to be a little bit more hands-on with you, teach you
Hmm.
more about the offer itself, be able to help get you the results that you're looking for early on,
Hmm.
and then also give you the opportunity to outperform the other setters to then become a closer or become a manager if
Hmm.
that's something that you want to do. Because that makeup, they typically don't have like multiple managers underneath the business owner. At a $250,000 a month, the business owner is probably still doing a lot of the managing. And
Hmm.
at that point in time, if you come in, you perform really well, you have the skill set, you come in and learn the data tracking, learn the like how to be a professional from the hopefully the coaching that you took, then it can actually give you those long-term opportunities and possibilities to be able to scale and be successful and be able to have that long-term growth.
Sure. Sure. And what would you expect at a company that size? What would you expect the size of a sales team to be in an organization like that? Because I've, heard stories where some of these companies will overstaff their sales team with like a billion setters and like every setter is like making barely any money and you want to avoid those with like a 10-foot pole. So,
Yeah.
yeah, for you and with your experience, what would you sort of expect as like a healthy amount for a size of a sales team?
Yeah. Every offer is a little bit different. I would say like quarter million, you're probably, have maybe like 2 to 4 closers, depending on the offer size, the product amount, and then setting team, depending on if they have like an outbound team, you're probably looking at like anywhere from 5 to 10 outbound setters, and then maybe if there is an inbound team, then you're probably going to have less outbound, a little bit more inbound, probably like 2 to 3 inbound setters. Um, it really depends on the package size, what niche you're in. But the biggest thing that I would look at is The top, so it's tough because for me, like I always know that I'm going to come in and be successful because I know myself and I don't worry about the bottom half of the team. I look at what the top half of the team is doing and I go and compete. So the top 20% of the team is always going to make the most amount of money. When I was managing 140 people, were 140 people making money? No, they weren't making money. But were the top 30 people making over $10,000 a month? Yes. Was the next group making over $5,000 a month? Yes. And so I had like 60 people on the team, 60 or 70 people making over $5,000 a month. And so when you look at something like that, is like from a new rep, is that a bad thing or is that a good thing? And I would say it's a good thing because all you have to do is come in and compete, and you have so many people that have done it before you. So there's a pathway built out for you. But if you're not really going to come in and compete and really challenge the top reps and be able to come in and be that professional, then it might be tough for you to be able to be successful on a bigger team like that because you're probably going to end up in the bottom half of the team. And so it just depends on what type of person you are. If you are competitive, don't worry about how big the team is. Just go in and be the top rep.
Mm. It's a really good perspective. I think a lot of people can, it's just good on mindset and attitudes for when people come into a new team and how, like setting their expectations right. So,
Yeah.
um, I think I asked pretty much every question that I had on board here. Did you have anything else that you wanted to like cover that we didn't touch on?
Yeah, I would just kind of like for anyone that's brand new in the space that is, looking into remote, looking into what remote setting is or remote closing is, just understanding that there's a lot of opportunities out there. This is the one time that there's more businesses being started and made, number one online, but just in general in the world, it's so easy to start a business now, which also means that if you're really good at what you do, there's endless amounts of opportunity, just not right now, but for the next 5 to 10 years. Excuse me. So right now would be the time that I would be looking at getting in to something. Now, that doesn't have to be setter to closer. That doesn't have to be a coaching community. That doesn't have to be specific things, but look at what you want to do. Look at how much money you want to make. Look at the people that are involved in organizations and go, do I want to be like that? Do I want to have those results? Do I want to be in that network? And then looking at it like your network is your net worth. At Setter to Closer, between all the coaches, we've done well over $100 million in the last 5 years. And so if you're looking at, what type of network you want to be in, well, there's a great network here. If you're looking at opportunities, there's a lot of great opportunities here as well. So one thing I would say is just take a little bit of faith in yourself, take a little bit of confidence, and just believe in yourself and take a leap and dive into the online space and be able to see what's possible for you. And you don't have to spend, tens of thousands of dollars to find the right opportunity. You could find something that's, very low ticket and then be able to build up into it and find a really great opportunity that can make you tens of thousands of dollars instead of spending it. So believe in yourself a little bit.
Beautiful, man. Well said. And what do people do if they want to connect with you further and maybe add you to their network? Where can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me on Facebook under Jared Harris. They can find me on Instagram under It's Jared Harris, and you can find us at Setter to Closer on School SKOOL. If you type in Setter to Closer, you can come find our community and be able to join some of the coaching calls and see if it's a fit for you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jared. Appreciate the time.
Thank you so much, Ethan.